Okay then, year 3. So now that you have had a think about what the giant looks like and how we might describe him, we are going to read the part of the traditional story, Jack and the Beanstalk, where Jack is introduced to the giant for the first time, so when he first sees him. So have a think about how the author has described the giant here, how Jack sees him, and how the giant might be feeling, because all of those words are going to help you when you come to do your writing in a minute. Okay, so Jack has already climbed the beanstalk, and this is where he sees the giant for the first time. Okay. Think about how the author has described how the giant moves. What verbs has he used to describe how the giant moves? The giant thumped into the room and stopped abruptly, sniffing the air. Then he cried out in a voice like thunder, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said the giantess. "It must be the man you had for dinner yesterday." She brought him a plate of roast beef and patted his giant head. Once the giant had finished his meal, he got up and opened the door to the adjoining room. Jack could see, through a crack in the oven door, that the room was filled with bags of glorious, shining gold. The giant sat down and began to count some of the money, until eventually his head began to nod and he started to snore. Jack crept out of the oven as he tiptoed past the giant. He snatched a bag of gold and ran as fast as he could to the beanstalk. When he got home, he told his mother of his adventure and proudly showed her his loot. So we're just going to leave it there. We're just going to read that small little bit about how the giant has been described. Okay, so hopefully you will have picked up a few words in there as to how the author described the giant. So this is one in particular, this verb I thought was really good to describe the giant, where it says the giant thumped into the room. You can imagine the noise that the giant must make walking into the room, can't you? The giant thumped into the room and stopped abruptly, saying everything that he does is done quite angrily, isn't it, if he stops abruptly? Okay, he speaks really loudly, he's got a voice like thunder. That's a really good simile, isn't it? Saying he's got a voice like thunder. Okay, so thinking about how he describes the giant. Then, on the next page, where it talks about him sitting with his gold, how maybe, even though the author doesn't say words about him here, what maybe is it picturing the giant to be like? Is he quite greedy? Is he quite selfish? Okay, and then he falls to sleep. He falls to sleep quite a lot in the story. Does that mean that he's quite lazy as well? Okay, so the author doesn't necessarily have to say the giant is lazy, the giant is selfish, the giant is greedy. You have to think about what the author is making you feel about the giant when they describe them like this. Okay, so hopefully you will be able to think of a couple of words to describe the giant.